What is cracking, everybody? You're back with Mr. Berger. Tonight we're taking a look at another mini collection deck that I used to get a few decent wins in on my main account for this recent mini collection global tournament. So if you missed the last video that I did on the mini collection deck building, that's pretty much what I covered, is how to build a deck and kind of my thought process that goes behind it, in making sure that we implement some really core and important things like having 2 spells, having a major win condition, having some support that synergizes well, having a defensive structure that can be beneficial, all kinds of things like that. So this one, I was thinking it was more of like a control style kind of counter push with an element of bridge spam deck. If you guys remember, there was this really strong Royal Recruits deck that was out and popular not too long ago, mostly when the Royal Recruits got rebuffed and the Barbarian Hut was really viral and all over the place. And the Barbarian Hut, it has been nerfed since, so it's not as strong as it once was. It's still a decent card, but I didn't have it in my collection pool for this particular tournament, because as you guys know, you only get 40 of the 90 or so cards that are available right now, and you have to build your deck based on those 40 cards. So I kind of crafted this one with that in mind, and I thought, okay, I'm going to build it with a kind of control-y Royal Recruits log bait kind of theme, and then go for very strong counter push as my win condition. So I started with the Battle Ram as my win condition. I know I had like Golem in there, but I played Golem a lot on ladder, so I decided to switch it up, and I went with the Battle Ram. I saw the Bandit, and I knew that she pairs really well with the Battle Ram, makes it kind of a bridge spam deck. And then I saw all these other cards, I was like, oh, I have Royal Recruits in there. I've also got the Goblin Gang for that kind of split push, pressure, and log bait element. And since I've got the Royal Recruits, the Battle Ram, the Goblin Gang, all these log bait kind of cards, I also put the Dark Goblin in there, because it can definitely benefit in this deck. And you'll see in some of these replays, Dark Goblin really is the MVP. He really shines and just gets so much value. Even though he was nerfed recently, he's still a very strong and very viable card. Definitely recommend him in certain decks if you have that element of a log bait, which this deck certainly does have. So I went with 2 spells as well, because that's something that's really important to have in these decks. I didn't really have a heavy spell, or if I did, I think it was one that was under leveled on my main account, like Rocket or something like that. So I decided to go with the Giant Snowball for my light spell, and then the Tornado is kind of a mid-range spell. Those 2 paired together can take out like a minion horde, for example, and just the Tornado is a very great card overall. Even if you don't have too much splash damage in your deck, which this one certainly doesn't, you can use it to counter things like hogs, to pull even like bandits or lumberjacks into your king tower to activate it, all kinds of cool stuff like that. Look at how close this match is. That Dark Prince would have taken it, but the Princess Tower finishes it off just in the nick of time, and then Dark Goblin runs in there and finishes off his tower. Alright guys, let's go ahead and jump on into another match. So this is going up against the kind of funky Ram Rider Balloon deck. It's got kind of a double or triple win condition, but the guy was probably crafting based on his card levels and the card pool that he had. So Royal Recruits, I have mixed feelings about whether to open with them or not, but they're pretty safe to play pretty much anywhere, so you can open with them, which I did there, you'll notice. And then they provide threat going down both lanes. And generally what you're going for is playing defense or building up a push and going in for a very strong counter push, in both lanes at once. And then once they log, like your Goblin Gang, you can safely put down your Barbarian, not your Barbarian Barrel, sorry, your Battle Ram, which has the little Barbarians in it, or your Dark Goblin, or something like that. Take advantage of them using their spell. The same thing goes for like if they're running Fireball or Barbarian Barrel. Once they've used that, then you can definitely take advantage of it. And if you've got a big push going in both lanes with the Royal Recruits, you can apply pressure to both lanes at once, and generally one of them is going to get through at least a little bit, because your opponent is going to be spending all their time and energy and effort answering that one lane. So then they're going to not be paying as much attention to the opposite lane, which is where you want to be able to break through. And something like just the Bandit, it's only a 3 elixir investment, but putting that like paired with those 3 Royal Recruits that are going down the opposite lane can really do some serious damage, because she'll dash in and destroy whatever counter they have, and then she'll dash to the tower before they answer it in time. And she kind of just sneaks her way in there. They might not notice her. Alright guys, so that's pretty much it for the deck. You've got the bridge spam elements with the Battle Ram and the Bandit. You've got your 2 spells, which gives you some kind of defensive control elements. And then you've got the Royal Recruits, you got the Goblin Gang, you got the Dark Goblin, these kind of log baity cards, especially with the Battle Ram in there as well. Bandit for pressure. But what about the E-Wiz, and why don't we have the Barbarian Hut instead? Well, as I mentioned, I don't think I had Barbarian Hut in this particular draft pool or card pool, so I went with the E-Wiz. And what I was thinking behind this is he's just a really great defensive card that, you know, turns into a whole lot of powerful counter push is what I'm trying to say. And so he definitely fits into the theme or the theory of this deck very well, because he enters the arena, he stuns everything, he does really decent damage, you know, he stuns on his attack, he's relatively speedy, so he goes in for that counter push. He's just a good card overall in the theme of this deck. You know, having that stun effect can be very beneficial. He attacks air as well, which this deck is slightly lacking in. You know, Royal Recruits don't, Battle Ram doesn't, Bandit doesn't, only 2 Spear Goblins from the Goblin Gang do. So it gives you some air defense as well for countering things like, right there you'll notice I always use them against the Bloom. And that was actually a misclick with that giant Snowball there. I meant to put down the Battle Ram, but it didn't matter at that point, honestly, because the match was pretty much over. I had it, you know, all in my hands there at that point. Alright guys, let's jump into another replay or two here, and let's do a little bit of a play-by-play. Alright guys, this is going up against a P.E.K.K.A deck here, so let's see what I do. Generally I'm going to be cycling something in the back. As you guys know, that's kind of my go-to move as an opener. You know, there is wiggle room. If my opponent opens first, I'll be countering what they have and going in for a counter push, you know, doing that. But here you can see I cycle the Dark Goblin in the back. That's what I opted to do. Not necessarily the best move, but I didn't have too many options. I cycle again the E-Wiz in the back, trying to get some defense going for that Baby Dragon. I think it's within splash range of the tower, which is unfortunate. I probably should have used him in a better spot, but hey, that's alright. That's why we watch these replays, you know, so that we can think about how we could do things better. I go in for the counter push, trying to make use of that E-Wiz with the Battle Ram there, and you'll notice that the giant Snowball does a great job, just like the Zap, of bringing down the minions and the minion horde so that they're within one shot range of the tower. You know, the Princess Tower can just finish them all off then, one at a time, without them providing any threat to the tower. And especially there, since they were separated by the giant Snowball, and some of them went up and some of them went down, they poured in even more slowly, so it was able to counter them even better. You can see there, or rather here, that I'm going in for a big split push. I got the Royal Recruits in both lanes, I split the Goblin Gang, and then I use the Bandit in the left, and that's what I'm talking about by using the Bandit and kind of allowing her to sneak in. She dashes in, counters whatever his defense was, and then she dashes into the tower. I send in the Battle Ram on the left as some more aggressive, you know, counter push threat, because you'll notice he did a lot of investing Elixir into the right there, so then I want to really take advantage of that. I want to really benefit from that and try to go in for the push in the opposite lane. Because as I mentioned earlier, guys, they're generally going to be focusing their defense on one of the 2 lanes. They're not necessarily going to be able to focus on both of them at the same time, or at least not fully invest as much as they could. Depending on their deck, like this guy is running a pretty heavy deck. So if he's using, you know, 4 or 5 Elixir to defend one lane, and then he's only got 2 or 3 left in the opposite lane, and my Royal Recruits and Bandit are just wrecking whatever he puts down, and then all of a sudden that 3 Elixir he puts down gets turned into nothing. I mean, there's really nothing he can do about it unless he plays his cards a little bit better, quite literally. And speaking of which, I should not have played that card right there. That was a terrible Bandit on my part, but hindsight's 20/20. I used the giant Snowball there to counter all those minions, and then I got the Dark Goblin in the back, really doing work here, finishing everything off. I want to make sure to take advantage of him, so I use the E-Wiz there to counter all of that, buy me some time. Dark Goblin gets even more value in, and he's just doing work here, guys, I'm telling you. I go and put the Battle Ram down to distract the P.E.K.K.A into the other lane, and then we have the Bandit coming down. You know, I wanted him to go onto the Wizard, so it didn't work out perfectly how I wanted, but that's alright. He goes into the P.E.K.K.A and it works out okay. I use the giant Snowball there, just kind of trying to buy me some time. I know that I've only got 10 seconds left, so at this point, I'm kind of getting desperate and investing more Elixir and cards than I normally would into defending in the right, because if the game was going to draw on longer, I wouldn't want to invest all the extra Elixir and like use that Tornado there kind of in a funky spot. But since it worked out pretty well and, you know, the match was almost over, I was able to invest that extra Elixir, no problem. Alright, we were getting a little ridiculous with that glare there. Since I moved, I love this room. I've got, you know, 2 windows, one on each side, you know, in front of me and to the side of me. It's really great. It gives me a lot of natural light during the day. But when I'm recording during the day, which is rare, but I do it from time to time, man, when that sun comes in on that side over there, you guys saw this whole side of my face was like you know, basically a piece of paper white, and then the other side you could see I felt like Two-Face there for a second. Anyway, I open here with the Royal Recruits, and then I use the Dark Goblin in the back there to kind of support those Royal Recruits. He uses the Barbarian Barrel to counter my Dark Goblin. Definitely good on his part. I get some damage off on the left there, and I'm going to make sure to defend here on the right. What I should have done there is put the Bandit all the way up so that it dashed onto the Wizard, and then he fireballs it, which is definitely bad for me, so some pretty poor plays there. The Wizard was locked onto my Princess Tower, so I used the Goblin Gang there to take it out. Again, probably could have used them sooner, but as I always say, hindsight's 20/20, and that's why we watch our replays to see how we could have done things better or differently, and could have definitely, you know, pulled it together a little bit better. But regardless, it works out okay. I took a lot of damage on my right tower there, but I needed to make sure to get my head back into the game. I knew that I had made a few mistakes there, and I'm like, okay, don't allow yourself to get tilted. You got a really strong deck here. You're not playing just like a Hog Cycle deck where, you know, if they've, or an Expo deck or something where, you know, if they've taken a tower early on, it's going to be a lot harder for you. Like, this deck has a lot of potential for a really heavy push or a split push. So I defend there again with the Dark Goblin and the E-Wiz, and I tornado it all together just to do a little bit of damage, buy me some time, you know, pulling that mini P.E.K.K.A. away. And it actually does a pretty good job. You know, the Wizard's definitely doing work there, but E-Wiz stuns him and gets a lot of value there. You'll notice that E-Wiz lived for a really long time, paired with the tornado and, you know, the Princess Tower tanking for it. He was able to get a whole lot of value. Definitely a great card, lots of damage. That stun effect is great. You know, just works out really well in this deck. I'm thinking I'm probably going to split Goblin Gang in the back here. That would be my go-to, but instead I use it there on the left to counter that giant. I leak a little bit of elixir there, which is definitely not good on my part, but, you know, I probably wasn't playing it. You know, I was thinking about should I play or shouldn't I play it, and by the time I decided, that was like an extra elixir gone. I feel like when I'm watching replays, though, it looks like I leak more elixir than when I'm actually playing the game. Maybe because when you put down a card at nearly 10 elixir, there's like that little bit of time where you are technically leaking a little bit if you don't place it soon enough. And anyway, that's getting into the logistics and the details of the game. But anyway, use the E-Wiz there on defense again. I was able to take out that left tower with that massive push. Again with the tornado on defense, pulls those fire spirits away so that they don't do any damage to my tower or to my E-Wiz. He goes ahead and fireballs that right tower. Good placement. He gets some good damage off on my king tower as well. I go for a really hard push here on the right. I know that he doesn't have too much, so I kind of just go all in because I know he could take out my left tower and win the game there, no problem. So I decided I'm going to go all in on the right and put down the Bandit, battle around, got the Royal Recruits, send in the giant Snowball. Everything is dead. Took out his tower. No problemo. That is it for that match. Alright guys, that is it for today or tonight's video, depending on when I upload this and when you're watching it. Thanks so much for watching all the way till the very end here. I really do appreciate it. Make sure to leave the video a thumbs up if you made it this far and you enjoyed it. And leave a comment in the comment section below if you have any suggestions or you want to tell me anything that you liked about this video or anything that you didn't like. If you like the format, me going doing the play-by-plays, or if that's a little bit too boring, make sure to let me know. Anyway guys, thanks so much for watching and have a good night.